Hi everyone. So I wanted to make a video about how to find research articles since old ones that I made seem to have disappeared. I'm making this fall 2025 for 170H. However, you may be seeing this video in the future for a different class. In any case, how do we find research articles? Well, there's many different ways, or how do we research a topic? There's many different ways. I'm going to say one of your best bets is to go to our library website. Why is that? Well, a lot of the peer-reviewed journals have what we call paywalls, meaning that they charge you for reading an article like $15, $20, $25, ridiculous. And so our library has subscriptions to a lot of these main journals or databases, so we should be getting these readings for free. If you find one that you cannot find for free, your next bet, aside from going to like Google Scholar, you could email the author directly, or you could go to our librarian and tell them what article or book or whatever it is that you want, and they can help you find it as well. But for the most part, you're able to pretty much get everything that you need on the internet these days, and mostly everything that we would want. I haven't really found articles that I've wanted that haven't been available to me in a while. But if you find something like that, let me know too, and I can help you out. But your librarian would probably be a good bet. Okay, so here's our library website, library.fresnostate.edu. You could literally just search here. There are also ways that you can search specifically within criminology journals and/or psychology journals. Because I'm in a field that's kind of in the middle of both, oftentimes I do like doing more broad searches, either here or on Google Scholar, just in case things were published in other discipline journals for whatever reason. But I'll show you what I found here. Let's see. Uh, mm, mm, mm. Okay. Research proposal, internet search and article resources. The other day I did find a few things. This is a video about searching for articles that someone else filmed. I think this one, no, maybe this is, I think, a FAQ about finding research articles. This is a CRIM database page. I think it's not really working, but we'll pull it up. And then down here is Psych, and then Google Scholars down here. So let's see what we've got. This is our criminology one. This is our criminology librarian. So if you want to email her or schedule an appointment, that would be great. Databases, I'm not sure these are working so great, but there are a bunch of databases here that you can look through. What is this courses? No, okay. So that's that. You could potentially look through these, click this guy and then search for articles this way, but this is only within this one database, which limits you a little bit. There's also Psych has a little bit more built out here in terms of articles and books and things. But I think it's probably our best bet to just look through the library website itself. Where are we at? Okay, so we're searching here. I started this semester talking about the horse project that I'm working on with a couple colleagues and a graduate student. And that's the most recent literature search that I've been looking for. So my research idea is trying to find articles that talk about very specifically horses in correctional institutions. One thing that we have to keep in mind with searches is that there are different words that could pull up the same types of things. So what do I mean? Horse is one that we know, right? But equine is also something that's used in the discipline to talk about horses. So either horse or equine, okay? Another thing to think about is prisoners. How else might we describe them? We might describe them as incarcerated, prisoners, those are the two main ones. So just think about what words you're using because different words can pull up different resources or articles, okay? So right off the bat, I'm just going to say horse and prison. Just searching everything, just real basic, and see what happens. So off the bat, it's pulling lots of things, 1,566, but it's pulling up things that I don't necessarily want. So for most of the assignments in my class, journal articles are going to be some of your best bets. You could do book chapters or books in general, but oftentimes the research that's put out more regularly will be put out in articles. So I often will just limit to peer-reviewed articles. So I can click this guy. I think that will also get rid of some of these. Like I don't necessarily want magazine articles or newsletter articles. And then you can also refine dates if you want. I usually will refine dates if I feel like I know the literature and then I just want to see what's been put out in the last few years. So things that I'm experts in, like maybe interviewing witnesses for those of you that have had me in 157, where I don't need to look for all of the articles ever published because I've already read a lot of them. And so I want to see just what's happened in the last 5 years. The horse therapy on prisoners is new to me, so I'm probably not going to limit that. I don't even really do language and stuff at this point. So I just did peer review journals. Let's see what that does. Takes me down from over 1,000 to 164. Now there's a few other things that could be helpful. There's a variety of things that's pulling up prison and horse, very likely because I did not describe it well, right? I'm not wanting things about guns or children or soldiers, so it's kind of pulling up a bunch of different things that I might not like. It might be better if I do inmate. But this is one of the articles that I actually found and I need to read that my grad student has already read. A History of Prison Inmate Animal Interaction Programs. This is exactly what I want. It's broader than horses, but horses are included in this. Or this one that says came for the horses, stayed for the men, a mixed method analysis of staff community and re-entrant perceptions of prison equine program. So these are definitely two that I would want. And I could keep going through here. I could do advanced searches. And if I do this, I can separate horse and prison. I can specify if I want it in the title of the article, if I want a particular author, if I know a call number. Usually I leave it any field because we never know what people are gonna name their articles. Usually the name is related to the main topic, but you never know. I could try equine instead of horse. So let's just see if I do equine. Right now I have 164 results. Let's see what happens. Goes down to 30. Maybe 30 is a better one. Am I going to miss out on some that say only horse? Possibly. But I'm probably getting articles more in line with what I want using the term equine. I'm not getting the like prisoners of war stuff really anymore. And this seems to be pulling up a lot of good stuff. So now let's look at, I see the title and it sounds like it could be good. Let's click on this guy. When you click on them, again, I see it's peer reviewed and it's telling me where I can get it full text, which we'll do in a moment. But first, we probably want to read this, which is the abstract. It says notes, but it's actually the abstract. And the abstract is like a summary of the entire article. Usually it summarizes like the overall topic, the research question, the method, the results, and the conclusions. It does like a sentence or two each of those to kind of sum up the whole thing. So we would want to read this and see, is this something I'm interested in? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. For me, I know it is. We can also see other key term searches that are there that would pull up things: prison equine program, prison community, correctional institutions. There's focus groups, rehabilitation, which is certainly a main part of this. So you can see other like subjects or terms that would bring it up, just in case you're curious. Okay, so I know I want this article. What do? You click on one of these. Oftentimes one is enough, but sometimes it might take you to some weird website. So I'm going to click on this guy. I will say I did try and do this at home last week, and it wasn't letting me pull these things up. But now I'm in my office on campus. I'm connected to the campus internet, and now it's working. So I'm not sure. Hopefully that problem is solved. You should be able to search for articles and pull them up wherever you are. If you're off campus, you should be able to sign in and do it. But I did encounter that problem myself, so I hope they fix that. All right, now this is the entire article. You can see the entire thing all the way down to the references. Now, usually in my methods of doing research and research papers, I'm often finding articles and downloading them and saving them, and then later on I will read them. So maybe you do one day of searching, and so I would download it. But however you want to keep track of these things, I think there's a way, if you're signed in, to add it to your list on your account, but I can't remember. I would just keep track of them, save it, maybe copy and paste this, the name or the author somewhere so you know you've downloaded this paper. And then you can read it, right? Download it, or you can potentially save a link and go to it later. I usually just download them, but maybe that's my old ways. Another thing that could be helpful, let's say this article is so close to what my research question is. I really like this article. I might want to see who else is citing this paper, or I could see who is actually cited in this paper to find those papers. So let's say I want to see newer publications. This one is 2020, so there aren't going to be that many that have cited this one, but let's see. Is anyone citing this? Yes. I've got two: the impact of working with farm animals on people with offending history. Maybe it's saying offending history. I don't know if that means they're in prison or not, but that might be worth looking at. Or this one, again, could be useful, maybe not. So I'm going to go back, whoops, and then try the cited in this one. And this is going to pull up all the papers that were cited in this and give you links to them, which is also another great way to find articles. If you find articles cited in there, you're like, oh, this one looks like it's probably good. I need to get this for myself. You can do it this way, or you can look at the references page, which is at the very end of the article, as we likely know. And these will often, either you can copy and paste, or perhaps if you click on a DOI, oh, it's going to literally take us to that journal, which you may or may not have access to right off the bat. You might need to like put this name into our Fresno State and find it through that way. But I think right off the bat, it knows I'm already logged into Fresno State and I can download this. You can see papers that they referenced. So it's not necessarily like you're referencing a bunch of articles one by one. You could find them and then find ones that are cited within that, or ones that have cited this one. This one is 2006, so this one is going to have a lot of ones that have probably cited it because it's older. So there's lots of ways to find articles, basically. But keep track of them. Again, I usually download them. I'll pull this over. This is where we have funny names for our horse project, but I've got a bunch of stuff here. And then this is literally all the papers that I've downloaded that I haven't read yet. And then the few that I've read, I stick in here. I still print them out and write on them. You guys do what you want. If you like reading on the computer, then you can take your notes or annotations there. But it's very useful to make sure that you kind of summarize for yourself or notes of the articles, because a week later you probably won't remember what exactly that article said. So make sure you're not wasting your time, basically. I think that's really it. Google Scholar, again, can be useful. It should pull up a lot of the same things, but if you're not too sure, obviously, look, it's pulling up the last few things that I've searched. Again, this is what I've been working on lately. So I've tried a few different terms. So equine assisted therapy, it's pulling up things over here. I can do certain dates. This also is likely going to maybe pull up some non-articles. Maybe I want to do that real quick. Okay, so let's say we are searching again. I'm going to clear everything. Did it pull up my? Okay, wait, maybe I already did. Okay, yes. Sorry, I already, when I did the new search with the new terms of equine in prison, it got rid of me saying I only want peer-reviewed articles. So this icon is a peer-reviewed article. This one is different, right? This is a little grad cap. And what does this mean? This is a thesis or dissertation. Theses or dissertations are what master's or PhD students have to do in order to graduate their programs. These are often, pretty much always, longer than actual journal articles because you have to show as a student about to get a graduate degree your mastery of the field. So I like these in that they're usually very in-depth, especially if it's very close to something that you want to do yourself. And it's also recent, then they should have a really good lit search that you could look at. But again, it's going to be quite large. So again, this is not a peer-reviewed article. This is a thesis or dissertation. And we could talk about, if you guys are curious, what's the difference. But I'm just gonna pull this up. Basically, I'm saying you don't have to use theses or dissertations. You could avoid them if you want, just for our purposes in class. For my master's students, I say you need to look at these because they often have really good information, especially if they're more recent. This one is 2016, so it's almost 10 years old, but still really good. This is 93 pages. Again, I said it's longer. It is different format. It's more like what your paper looks like. So that's part of it, but it's going to have a lot larger literature review and introduction. So we can see up to page 50. They're talking all about like theoretical backgrounds and the literature search. Then they're getting into their method, I think. Or maybe this is a review and then discussion, and then often at the end, there are references and maybe appendices. So if you're curious, that's what these guys are and can be useful, but usually for my undergrad classes, I'm not requiring you to have these things. Let me see what else we got. Yeah. So you don't have to use these for our courses, undergrad classes, but if you are curious about getting the best overview on research topics, I would encourage you to look at these, but again, they are quite long. That was a master's thesis. A dissertation could potentially be longer. What else? This is a newsletter article. Again, I didn't do the peer-reviewed journals. This is not going to be super helpful. The only time I would potentially use it is if I want it in like an introduction as like basic facts, but I'm not going to count this as like evidence or science, basically. They're different. I forget. Uh, Regional news, like that's not something that's going to be super helpful. So keep an eye on what your references are. If you just want to cut out the theses, dissertations, and newsletters, just hit the peer-reviewed journal articles, and that'll get rid of those things. I think that's basically it. Hopefully this was helpful. I wanted to film it just so that you can look at it at your own pace, because I know things in class can go rather fast. So let me know if you have any questions, and hope this was helpful. Bye-bye.